Plano City Council approves using $700 million in taxpayer funds to build new Dallas Stars arena. The current Dallas Stars location is the American Airlines Center, which they share with the Dallas Mavericks, which is like right in the middle of downtown Dallas. They came to the Plano City Council and said, hey, we want to move to specifically where like there's sort of an old mall complex that's sort of dead at this point. They want to knock down the mall and build a whole new like arena complex and everything. And the Plano City Council voted unanimously 8-0 to approve this move. Plano City Council approved contributing $700 million to help fund the roughly $1 billion Dallas Stars Arena project at the Shops at Willow Bend Mall site. Willow Bend used to be like, it was a pretty like more upscale mall site, like, and it's a pretty nice facility. Like if you ever go inside, or last time I went inside like 15 years ago or something. I remember it being fairly nice. It's definitely nicer than a lot of other malls, but I guess it just died. And yeah. Damn you, online shopping. The city council unanimously approved a tax increment reinvestment zone near the mall, with tax dollars collected near Willow Bend and the Dallas North Tollway used to back bonds. Okay, so what this is, a new tax increment reinvestment zone, is basically they drew a zone around the Willow Bend area, and that any tax valuation increases go towards this project. So from what I saw, the current area, the current zone collects somewhere around $10 million a year in like property taxes and other local taxes. And that it's projected to be somewhere upwards of $30 million after this, if this stadium project is built, and then the property valuations go up as a result, and therefore the property taxes go up, which will increase the overall tax revenue. That delta between the $10 million that they currently receive now versus the $30 million, let's say it does go up to $30 million, just make it nice and even. That $20 million difference is what will be reinvested, what will be put towards this project. That original $10 million won't be put towards the project, but anything after that will be. Now, the big problem with this is it very arguably is like a sort of socialism for the rich type scenario. Who ends up paying for these property tax increases because property values go up because the new stadium complex is built nearby? Well, it's going to be people who frequent the businesses. It's going to be homeowners. It's going to be apartment renters. It's going to be anybody who lives in the area or frequents the area or does business in the area. They're going to be the ones paying for this, right? And let's just be real here for a second, okay? Most of those people, 99% of those people are going to be people making less than $100,000 a year, $200,000 a year, $300,000 a year. They aren't going to be millionaires and billionaires. And all of this at the same time that, Tom Gagliardi, who's the guy who owns the Dallas Stars, is worth somewhere about $3.5 to $4 billion is his estimated net worth. So he could like pay for this whole stadium complex himself pretty much if he wanted to, if he just sold a bunch of his assets and reinvested that. At the same time that when he purchased the Dallas Stars in 2011, it was worth $240 million. And now the Dallas Stars is estimated at about $2.4 billion in valuation, right? That's like literally like a 9.5, 10x fold increase in valuation, right? And the Stars, as far as I understand, did somewhere between like $70 and $250 million in profit just last year alone, right? So like the idea that like the average taxpayer would be having to contribute towards this, at the same time that like you have a literal billionaire owning it and the team itself is very, very profitable. Just doesn't feel right? All that money could be used to improving the roads, to building new and better parks, to building like a homeless shelter. When I was growing up in Plano, I like 10 plus years ago, I never saw any homeless people ever. Okay. And I'm not saying I was literally everywhere at every time and that there was never any homeless people, but I never saw any homeless people. And now when you drive around different parts of Plano, you see people panhandling, you see homeless people in various areas, right? And I'm not saying that this is all Plano's fault. Okay, this is more of an economic problem. This is more of a societal problem. This is a bigger problem than Plano, but that doesn't mean that Plano doesn't have the ability to do anything about it, right? Some of this money certainly could be put towards building a homeless shelter or helping some of these disadvantaged people get off the street and get back into being a valuable member of society. And so this just doesn't feel right. I understand why the Plano City Council wants to do this. Obviously, if you have the option to have a NHL team move to your town, you're going to want to do that and you're going to want to do whatever you can to incentivize them, but it just doesn't feel right. And I have a feeling this is sort of like sort of like the Olympics, right? When the Olympics comes to a major city, it ends up, like, as far as I understand, most studies show that it actually ends up economically hurting the city, right? It might hurt them and help them in the very, very short term, but in the long term, the amount of money that they have to invest into it that could have been put elsewhere in more long term local type projects doesn't really like pay out. It doesn't really, the math doesn't math out. I would not be surprised at all if it's basically the same case for this sort of thing, that like realistically, this isn't going to provide the city of Plano and the residents with as much benefit as like you might hope. So, I don't know. The city of Plano would own the potential new arena and would enter into a 30-year lease agreement with the team. Oh, yes, that's a big problem with this, right? What happens after, as far as I understand, the Stars have been at the American Airlines Center for somewhere around like 25 years, right? That's about the life cycle for these sorts of things. So what happens after the 30-year lease is over, right? They're probably just going to up and get out of there. And then that whole area is either going to tank in property value, or they're just going to demolish it all. Or it just seems like, 30 years is a pretty long amount of time. And I'm not trying to make the case that 30 years is a short amount of time and that like this won't have any benefit at all in that period of time. But like, when you do it in this sort of 30-year lease agreement type deal, it just makes me feel like the same thing very well could happen at the 28-year mark, 27-year mark, that the Stars start looking for a new home. Maybe they move even further north. Maybe they move to Frisco or McKinney or whatever. At that point, it'll be much more developed and much more wealthy and yada yada. So who knows? The renderings I saw of the new arena look a little bit like, it literally just looks like Victory Park, which is the like current AAC like area. Like it looks very similar to that. I can't imagine that they're actually going to put like tables here, and it just looks like, you'd think that like if they're going to spend $1 billion and give this business, because that's what the Dallas Stars are, they're a business, $700 million in taxpayer funding over a 30-year period or whatever, that like they could come up with something cooler. They could come up with a more interesting design. This looks just sort of kind of basic and not impressed. Not terribly impressed. Voters in Plano would have to approve any deal to fund the new arena. We hope that all goes well and the Stars will be here in 2031. So that would be 5 years from now. Yeah, that sounds about right for building this sort of a complex. I was going to be shocked to feel like it said 2027. I'm going to be like, no way, they're actually going to get all that done for $1 billion in 1 year or whatever. Impossible. But 2031 makes more sense. Plus, I don't know how long the current Dallas Stars lease agreement with the AAC in the city of Dallas lasts. So, I'm sure that still has a couple more years on it, right? They're going to be planning these things far out in advance. This isn't like a last minute flight you're going to be booking to go see your grandma or something. So yeah, I'm sure Dallas is not happy about this. I'm sure they would love to keep the Stars, and I'm sure that this deal isn't completely finalized yet. These kinds of deals tend to come and go sometimes, and so I wouldn't be surprised if you see Dallas make some sort of proposal, or if straight up a new deal is made with the Dallas AAC area that's extremely lucrative for the Dallas Stars and extremely profitable for them, and they just continue to stay there. After all, it's a business, and if they determine that it's more profitable for them to take, $1 billion, for instance, in future tax revenue and tax breaks and whatnot from the city of Dallas, as opposed to moving to Plano for $700 million or whatever, then they're of course going to make that deal. So, this deal is not set in stone yet, and I'm interested to see, considering these comments from Johnson, like he's not saying like the deal's over yet, right? He's talking like there's still a chance that they could stop this or that they could keep the Dallas Stars in Dallas. So, I don't know. And I also wonder if maybe the Dallas Stars would change their name. I'd be so surprised if the Dallas Stars changed their name in response to moving to Plano, right? Plano's still sort of like close enough to Dallas that I have a feeling that like they'd still probably just keep the name Dallas Stars, especially considering the whole DFW complex is massive. But you never know. It'd be funny. The Plano Stars, the Plano Pigeons, the Plano Puck Hogs, the Plano Piss Drinkers, the Plano Piss Drinkers. That's going to be their name. During public comment, several Plano residents opposed the idea of using public funds to lure a professional sports team. Like I probably am. There's just something so wrong about like your tax dollars, right? What's going to happen as a result of this, right? Your rent is going to go up. The cost of food in that area is going to go up. The cost of housing, the cost of almost everything, doing regular shopping, right? And what benefit are you going to get from it, right? Are you going to get better schools? No. Are you going to get better roads? No. Are you going to get better parks? No. Are you going to get, better support for the disadvantaged communities like the homeless and whatnot? No. What are you going to get? Well, you're going to get a big stadium and more money in the pocket of an already very profitable professional sports team. So there's just something wrong about this. I understand the excitement of this project. Gary Carey, a resident. Gary Carey, what a name! Oh my god, I wonder if that's like a fake name or something. That's crazy. Who named Gary Carey? That's really good. I would love to meet the parents who are like, our last name's Carey. What should we name our son? I got it, Gary. A resident who opposes the arena project said, if we build this stadium and they leave, we're going to be in the same boat. Absolutely. In fact, you might be even in a worse boat because then you're just going to have you're going to have dropped $700 million on this team and this project, of which, I'm sure over that 30-year period, the team is going to be more than $700 billion profit. And then you're going to lose the team. This is nothing more than a corporate welfare scheme. Jennifer Groisman, another resident opposed to the Stars' potential move, said, there's a pretty good case to be made about that. Absolutely. City leaders cautioned that this is far from a done deal, and extensive conversations will be held in the years to come to address public safety concerns, an increase in traffic in the area, and noise pollution concerns. Yeah, that's already a super trafficy area if you've ever driven around there, anywhere near close to like rush hour time and stuff. So I wonder, I just thinking about that area off the top of my head and like Dallas North Tollway and stuff, like I just wonder if it really has the capacity to handle that many people coming in multiple times a week. Like they're going to have to make some serious changes, I think, to the way the roads are laid out. They might have to get rid of other businesses in the area, knock down buildings, because they're going to have to build a tremendous amount of parking. It's just, this is a very big project to try and put this in the current location of Willow Bend Mall. Plano will hold 2 in-person open houses at the shops at Willow Bend to continue community engagement on the arena project on Wednesday, July 8th and Tuesday, July 14th. Yeah, but these are totally these are purely symbolic gestures, right? These are purely like fig leaves, right? These mean nothing, okay? Like you can come to one of these community engagement things, to one of these open houses and provided the most well-written, strongest criticism possible. And it's not going to matter. Okay. It's not one tiny bit going to influence anybody's decision-making. You could even bring up some humongous problem with the whole plan that nobody thought about, even the planners of this whole thing. And they're just going to ignore you. I would bet that nobody even important is going to be there. Nobody of any position of power is going to hear what you're saying at these meetings at all. It's purely symbolic. So yeah, I mean, this just something just doesn't feel right about using $700 million of taxpayer money that could be going to other things, more citizen-centered things. Also considering at the same time, it's, in this in a tax increment reinvestment zone, all of the cost of living is going to go up significantly for literally zero return on investment, right? All that extra taxes they're going to be paying to the city is not going to go, like I said, to better roads, to better parks, to homeless shelters or anything like that, right? It's going to go straight into eventually over a 30-year period, it's going to go straight into the pockets of the owner of the Dallas Stars, who's already a billionaire. Yeah, I'm not really a fan of this sort of thing. And I hate to be such a buzzkill about this sort of thing. A lot of people who might live near me in Plano area might be like, oh, it's so cool. The Dallas Stars are moving closer, right? Oh my God, that's awesome. And there's just on a very surface level, you don't care about politics. You don't care about the implications of anything else. Sure, you can be excited about that kind of thing, right? I'm not going to burst your bubble, if you want to talk to me about how cool you think it is or whatever, right? But there's just, I'd be all for it if they didn't do the $700 million thing. If they weren't giving $700 million of our tax dollars to them to do this sort of thing, I might be all for this thing, right? And I'd be okay with maybe even a small contribution to this sort of thing. Maybe you give them some sort of tax break, or you give them, a couple $1 million, not $700 million.